Hi everyone, welcome to Tales of Dread. In this episode we go to Nevada and tell the tale of Danita. Well, I'm from Nevada, and we have some strange things too. I work as a security guard at the East Basin Mall, which is outside of the city. 2 hours north of Las Vegas. I work the night shift, and where I work is a quiet, affluent area. Most of the time, the other guards and I just watch the camera feed and try to beat the clock at the start and end of each shift. We need to make a sweep. And this is where I and 3 other people walk around the property to make sure everything is okay. Outside the mall, we do a lap. Then we go through every floor. To walk the whole thing takes about an hour. My shift starts at 1 AM. And the first thing we do is sweep and look over the parking lot. There shouldn't be any people standing around outside of our cars. After we finish our sweep, we're ready to go back inside. Only one door is open when we're on shift. We used to go in and out of the mall, and every time we left, I made sure the door was locked. So, when we got to the door that day, it was still locked the way I had left it. We are now patrolling the first floor inside. Every store has shut down for the night. We also only have half of the lights on. So we all have our flashlights out in case I hear something moving around by the escalator. So I let my light shine there. Nothing is there? So I think it must be something like mice. Then we go up to the second floor, where we hear a strange clicking sound, like someone clicking a pen really fast but louder, and we can't figure out where it's coming from. We keep waving our flashlights around, but we can't find anything. Then, one of the guys calls the security team back at the office and asks them to check the camera feed over where we are. They say they don't see anything either, but the sound keeps getting louder and has an odd rhythm to it. Now, the problem is that we're on the second shift of the night. Since almost 4 hours ago, the mall has been locked. And, as I said, there is only one door we can use to get in. I think either something went wrong with the equipment or an animal got in during the day and got lost. I tell the security team to turn on the rest of the lights, and then we continue making our rounds. We're done looking at the other floors, and the noise has stopped. There's nothing there. All of the stores have closed down. The front windows are covered with metal curtains that are pulled down and locked, so it's literally impossible for anything to have broken into one of the stores. So, now that everything is quiet, are we really taking it easy? Because half the job is stopping a robbery. So, we're about to get to the main offices when we hear this loud banging on the walls. We're in the basement, which is where the offices start. And there are just a bunch of regular doors with locks and keys down there. Someone could be in there, but we or the guys in the office would have seen it, and now we're trying to figure out where the sound is coming from. The noise is coming from this one office in the middle of the hall. I run to our office to get the master key, but by the time I get back and we open the door, the noises are even louder and the office is empty. So, we locked the office again and went to join the other guards. The sound of banging is coming from up above us. Now that we've turned on every light in the mall, I think it's time to do another sweep. I get the other people, and we go back up. We try to follow the sound as best we can, but it goes away for a few minutes and then comes back, so we're all over the place trying to find it. We try to follow it up to the second floor, and I think that something must have gotten into the vents. This is the only way it could go that far. And it moves quickly. I mean, we're running all over the place to keep up with it. We get to the food court, where we stop because we've been looking for this thing for an hour and are all tired. All of the lights in the mall are on all the way. I'm trying to catch my breath and figure out how to describe what happened in an incident report when I hear a click right above me. So I look up and see a white head sticking out of a ceiling tile that has been moved out of the way. It has these huge, black eyes, and that's all I see of it before it goes back into the vent. I can hear it clicking as it moves away, and now I don't know what I just saw, but I asked the other guys, and I'm the only one who did. We radioed back to the office, but they said the cameras didn't catch anything and the banging is now far away. We decided to go back to the main security office, but we keep hearing the banging and clicking, but no one wants to go after it. It has been moving so quickly all night that I thought it might be a raccoon. It wasn't our business to mess with it. That first sighting happened last summer, right before school let out, and I'm still working the night shift. We've heard that banging and clicking for a few nights now, and I'm trying to get used to it because, despite everything, this is still a pretty good job. I don't want to quit just because of this one thing, whatever it is, but the mall is only so big. So I'm going to see it again one of these nights. I know that, and wow, I'm so glad I found you. I mean, what do people do when they can't tell anyone and no one believes them? People already think that I'm a little strange. But really, I think it's because I have an open mind and it scares them when I talk about how we can't control everything in the world. Most people don't walk around neighborhoods at 4 a.m., so the fact that I do is what brought me to this person in the first place. I just wanted to make a little extra money so I could move out of my mother-in-house laws and send my kids to a good school. I tried the usual job boards and help, wanted sections to find something to do on the side, but everything I found would mess up the schedules of my kids. So I finally paid attention to this flyer for newspaper deliverers that kept showing up in our mail. Back when that was still a thing, this happened. The problem was that I had to get up at 3 a.m., and I'm not used to getting up early. I had to go to the distribution center to roll up the papers and put them in bags. Really, what a waste of plastic. But the weather in West Virginia is always changing, and you can't imagine how angry people can get about a wet newspaper. I had to hand out close to 300 papers. I would put them in the back of my car and leave for my route around 4 a.m. most of the time. It was quiet. I'm the only one who isn't still asleep. When I looked at the dark windows, I wondered who lived there. A lot of rabbits were also out. About that time, I became very aware of animals that only come out at night. The bunnies were going about their business like it was the middle of the day. The foxes and raccoons, all the people sleeping and unaware of the worlds that opened up in the dark. It was May, and I don't know if you know this, but there are close to 2,000 species of moths in West Virginia. Moth eggs hatch between April and May, and some years they come out in swarming hordes, but that year was especially bad. They were all around. Some parts of my path were simple. The neighborhoods where the houses are all in a row. Most of those people didn't mind if I just threw their paper as close as I could to their porch. But they're always the ones who want their paper put in a certain place, like next to a certain bush or under a certain beam of wood on the porch. I don't even know how these people can afford to live in those houses. I had to get out of my car and put the paper exactly where it was supposed to go. Everyone had their porch lights on, and do you know what moths like? Yeah. Light. So, every time I had to walk up to a porch, those bugs would swarm me. You can't even imagine how they would flap and flutter all over and get caught in my clothes. I had really long hair back then, and they would swarm into it like they were going to make a cocoon there. They really irritated me. My goal was always to get back to the car without bringing too many of them with me. It was sometimes impossible, which was bad enough. But then you should have seen one of the apartment buildings that I had to do. I had to go down this set of stairs to get to the entrance, which was lit by very bright lights. There were a lot of moths stuck in the stairwell. I guess they would get down there and not know how to get back up. Imagine me holding a big bag of newspapers and fumbling with my master key to get in while hundreds of moths fly all around me and hit me. It really did look like I was in a horror movie, but my paycheck didn't show that. So I would go in and try to slam the door behind me. But dozens of moths would always follow me inside. It went on and on. Like I said, that was their worst year by far. Anyway, everything was fine. I would go in, drop off the papers, and leave as quickly as I could. But when I came up the stairs this night, I saw a hurt raccoon lying there. Well, it looked like it had been crushed and flattened, as if it had been sucked dry. I screamed so loud, but then I ran to my car, and I'm not making this up. On the roof, something is hunched over. I parked in a dark place to keep the moths away, you know. So it was hard to see what was going on. But this thing was hunched over and looked like it had big black wings that were folded up. It was also scratching at the top of my car. When it looked at me, its red eyes were shining. You should have heard me scream if you thought I did it before. Then I heard a horrible scream, so I ran back to my apartment building. I was so scared that I was shaking like a leaf, but I was able to get the door open and get back inside. I ran up the stairs to a landing and looked out the window where I could see my car. The thing was still there scratching and scratching, what the actual hell? But then something stood up on my car and was as big as a man. It jumped into the air and flew away quickly. I couldn't do anything. We didn't have cell phones back then, and it was very scary. I waited there until sunrise, and when someone came out of their apartment to get their paper, I told them I was the delivery person and asked to use their phone. He said that my car was having trouble, which wasn't completely true. When my husband came home, I went outside, and when I came back, the moths and the stairwell were gone. In fact, there was no sign of moths anywhere, but my car's roof was covered with scratches. I hope you read this on your show, because nobody believes me when I say this. I'm really sick of everyone making fun of me. If anyone who reads this has had a similar experience, please say so in the comments. Maybe then my boyfriend will take me seriously. I always walk on this Massachusetts trail near my house. It is between Boston and Cape Cod on the South Shore. I don't know if the place I go has a name or not, but it's like a forest with trails for mountain bikes. Even when I hike alone as a woman, I usually feel pretty safe. I mean, I grew up here, so it's not like it's the city or anything. A few weeks ago, I went on a Thursday afternoon, I think it was the 24th, in the late afternoon. There were a few clouds, but I didn't think it was going to rain that day. Boy, was I wrong. At first, it was just a few drops, but then it started to pour and there was thunder and lightning. I was most afraid of the lightning because I couldn't run back to where I had parked my car, which was about 20 minutes away. So, there are a lot of big boulders and big rocks in this area. And I saw this rock hanging over a hill to the right of the path. It has a hole in the back. There might be a small cave or something. I don't know for sure that I'm not about to go into a cave, but I thought I could at least stand under the overhang and not get wet. So I'm standing there, waiting for the rain to stop, and I don't know, I guess I just had a feeling that something was watching me because the hair on the back of my neck stood up. I had to turn around and look into the dark space behind me. At first, I didn't see anything, and I felt silly scaring myself like a child. There are only snakes in the woods where I live, and you don't see them very often. There are no bears, wolves, or other dangerous animals. I told myself that if something lived in the cave, it was probably a small animal like a fox. But when I looked into the dark, I could see the shadows moving. I knew there was something inside. It didn't look like it could be very big, even though I couldn't see much at the time. The way the light moved around it made it look much smaller than a person. I wasn't scared so much as uneasy, but I took a step forward and to the side to get away from whatever it was. I was sure I didn't want to scare a skunk. Rain was still falling in sheets, and the sky was getting very dark. I stood there and watched the lightning, and only a few of the strikes were really close. The air also smelled like ozone. If I didn't have to, I really didn't want to be out in the open. I heard it when the thunder stopped rumbling for just a minute. It was a nasty sound, like the sound of wet lips being smacked while eating or something gross like that. I turned around to look in there again, but I couldn't see what was in there, and then I smelled it. The wind must have changed. It smelled just as bad as a dead raccoon on the side of the road. It made me gag. It went back to the woods to see if there was another overhang nearby. It was clear that some kind of animal was eating another dead animal in the cave, and I just wanted to get away from it. But it was storming like crazy, and I needed shelter. I wasn't scared, I was just disgusted by the smell. I took a few more steps away from the cave, but I couldn't see anywhere else to go because it was raining. Then, all of a sudden, I heard a sound like rocks falling behind me, so I turned around to see what was going on. The shadow of the thing inside was getting bigger, and all of a sudden I realized that this creature wasn't small like I had thought because it had been hunched over and was now standing up. I didn't know what this meant. Then, it was too dark in the cave to see much, but it had to be about 6 feet tall if it could stand on its back legs. And it really caught me off guard. I stopped for a second when I saw how big it was and that it was standing on its back legs. That was pretty scary, and then the lightning flashed right when I was looking at it. I could see it so clearly that it was like something out of a nightmare. It looked like a dog because it had a snout, but it was as big as a man and covered in fur. I saw dog ears on its head, the kind with points. It growled when I screamed, stumbled, and almost fell down the hill. Like a dog, getting ready to attack. I swore I thought it was going to die, and just thinking about it gives me goosebumps. So, I ran away from the lightning. I felt like my life was in danger. God bless, it didn't come after me. I knew no one would believe me. But when I looked it up online, I saw that people were talking about it. They called a man and dog. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. I guess that was it. So that's how I found your channel on YouTube. I want to thank you for doing your show and letting people talk about their lives. At least I no longer think I'm crazy.